cramp. Bananas are good because the potassium in them is good for your muscles.
And water.
All right, so your homework today for your plan book, because we have some people who have not been writing in their plan book, so please make sure that you are writing in your plan book. Your homework today, you might as well just put 11.1/2. That's probably how far we'll get, but we're going to get pretty far, and that's why you have the entire packet full of notes. Slide that back over there. So we are diving into circles, but before we dive in, I need to ask your guys' preference.
Yeah.
When do we want to take the mastery? Because we're done with chapter 10.
Today.
Your angle work, I did not print them yet because I don't do like, we're having a test. So we're not doing it today, I guarantee that.
Tomorrow.
So here,
Oh,
give me a
Thursday.
second. Give me a
Monday.
second. Holy cow, people. First off, I don't like Monday assessments because never fail. Somebody will be like, I forgot, and they panic, and then that's not good. I don't like to cause stress. So, today's Tuesday. We'll probably cover 11.1 and 2 today. Tomorrow, Wednesday, we'll probably cover 11.3 and 4. Maybe get all the way through 4. We might not. So then, Thursday, we would probably finish chapter 11. We could then have the chapter 10 test on angles on Friday, but you're like waiting till Friday. We could have the chapter 11 test on Friday right at the end of like, hey, we just got done with the chapter, and then do chapter 10 sometime later, but then you got to get your chapter 11 work done like right now. So I don't want to keep moving on. I mean, that'd be moving way too far ahead before doing assessments. So eyes closed, let's do like a little blind vote thing. If you do not care when we take the assessment, let's just make that the first one. Shut your eyes, come on. I can see that your eyes are open.
Okay.
Raise your hand if you do not care when we take the assessment.
Wait, you guys are options first.
So it's going to be do not care, take it as soon as, so we can't take your assessment tomorrow because I'm being observed. I have to teach tomorrow because Mr. Shurk has to come watch that I still know how to teach. So the earliest it could be is Thursday. So your votes are going to be Thursday, Friday, or like don't care. So I like to do don't care first. So if you don't care, raise your hands. All right, that's a decent amount for don't care. Put those down. You want to take it Thursday. Get it happening sooner rather than later. We want to get on with it. Okay, and hands down. And if you really want to take it Friday, you're opposed to non-Friday masteries. Okay. So, eyes open, or whatever you choose. I mean, you can keep your eyes shut if you so choose. It looks, I mean, the majority winner is that you guys don't care. The second place winner is to do it on Thursday. So, let's see how quickly we move through chapter 11 stuff. But likely, we'll probably do it on Thursday. Latest, we'd push it as Friday. So, for 10, for chapter 10. It makes more sense to do chapter 10 first, so you guys have some time to do this practice.
It was the nicest math teacher I've ever had.
Thanks. I mean, it's just, we're like coworkers. So, I don't really care when we take the assessment. We need to take it at some point. I want to make your guys' life less stressful. And we have a canteen on Friday. So, of course, you know, that's happening as well. So, when we talk about circles, what characteristics do we know about circles? Ignore the notes for a moment. Just what things do we know? Sam?
I guess they have no corners.
Yeah, they have no corners. They are continuous all the way around. So it's a one-sided shape, kind of?
It doesn't have sides.
Yeah, so we can't really even talk about sides. Sides isn't really a word that we talk about with circles. Honestly?
There's a diameter.
There's a diameter. What now? So you're using the vocab, but what is that? That's
It's from the edge of the circle to the center.
it is not. So that's why you got to be careful before we get into the actual nitty-gritty. That's the radius. Diameters all the way across. So the widest distance across a circle, that's actually your diameter. What else do we know about a circle, though?
The center is a point.
There's a point in the center. And that actually, so those couple things I can relate to each other. How could I make a circle? Like, let's go way back in time. We don't have computers. We don't have, like, these geometric drawing tools. How can I make a circle? Ozzy?
Just make one with the pencil.
Well, that won't be perfect.
Go like this.
Dom?
Well, that's the thing. You just take your pencil and go over your hand and start spinning the paper around in a circle.
Okay, I mean, that's one way, but never fail. You're going to have a little kink or a bump. Yeah.
Just put like that thing where you put your like a little pencil and it's like put sideways.
So we have compasses. Remember, protractors measure the angles. Compasses actually do the opening. But that's one of those hard things because there's multiple things called compasses. But yet, how you make a circle is get one line that is all equidistant from a point. So an easy way that I could make a circle, if you gave me something, I could just spin and make a perfect circle because that would all be equidistant. So the big thing to talk about here is circles. Saying that things are circular, a lot of people misuse this word. Round and circular are two different things. Circular needs to be perfectly spaced out from the center. Round is just round. My arm is round. Our fingers are round. Most of our body parts pretty much are round, but they're not perfect circles because they're more like ovals or things like that. So a landscaper wants to build a flower garden with a fountain in the center and a path on the outside. We want the fountain to be the same distance from anywhere on that path. So you, on your paper, try as best as you can, draw that path. So you want to have an inside line, like an inside edge, and an outside edge for your path. So I'm not like judging this. Take 30 seconds to a minute. Just try the best you can. Remember that our path is circular. It is a round path. It must be the same distance from that fountain all the way around. And then, if you so choose, you may get a compass and try to draw that. To use your compass, you're going to want to set your very centered metal tip in the middle. Expand your compass out however far you want to, so you could choose one of these crosshairs. And then you can either spin your compass or spin your paper, but put the pressure on that middle metal point. So the metal point is where you want to put your pressure, and that wants to be in the very center. So if we...
I can't do it. It's too big.
So you might have to change the size of the It Can Gentleman. Really? Do I need to discuss that, or are we going to grow up? Not the right time or place, and you know that. So if I can find my compass tool, my math tools maybe didn't load back up onto here. Aha, here we go. So if you are unfamiliar with your compass, you put that middle point in the center. You expand it however large you want. So if you're struggling, look up on my TV. I guess I can move it down so it's in my screen recording. So put your center metal point on the middle of the fountain. Then you just rotate all the way around. And then I can change my size to get my either outer or inner edge or however wide you're going to make it and draw another one. Now, obviously, with my smartboard tool, I can kind of cheat. But on your paper, you just want it to look as good as possible.
Yeah.
Any questions? If you're just struggling, that's okay. This is kind of a difficult skill. Here's the trick, and I see some of you guys holding the pencil. Do not hold the pencil. You want to be holding this black handle on top, pushing down on the center metal, lightly letting the pencil brush as you go. You're not pushing down on the pencil, really. Yeah, I mean, I've got the handheld sharpener over here if you need. Or somebody took it. All right, we got to move on. So you can keep playing with that, but I gotta move on. Hey guys, sharpening your pencil is not like primary thing. Pass it around as you're able to, but sit down. So, I need your attention. If you don't have a highlighter, you need to grab one. If you don't have a highlighter at your desk already, you need to grab one. Crap, I think I need to buy more highlighters. Hey, Mrs. Goldring, you should place that order. I need to buy more highlighters. All these kids that were supposed to have them. So, here are some of the most important vocab words involving circles. If there's one thing that you could do to benefit yourself in your future math career, it's get these learned correctly now. So do not guess. If you're working on your homework or you're working on whatever, if you are not certain, go look it up. So, radius is from the center of the circle out. And this is where if you had multiple colors of highlighter, I would change colors. Diameter means all the way across.
Do I have your advisory discovery day?
I do not believe you have them. I still haven't checked if I have all of them because I don't think I do. Here's what I do
I'll
have.
know today.
And I just got that thing.
Thank you.
Thank you. So here's kind of what you can remember. Radius just goes halfway. Diameter, the word is longer. It's a bigger word, it takes more letters, and it involves the word meter. If you didn't recognize this, underline this right here. It involves the word meter, which really means distance. Now, the metric system uses the meter as its basis of distance. We don't, but, we wish we did. So, what it technically means is the length of this segment. Now, radius is talking about the same thing, but how do they relate with each other if radius is only from the center out to the edge and diameter is from edge to edge? Awesome.
Radius times 2 equals diameter.
So we can say that diameter is 2 times the radius, or radius is half of the diameter. So please make sure that you have these two relationships written down somewhere. Your diameter is double your radius, or we can say that your radius is half the diameter. Yeah?
How do you find out diameter or radius if you don't have either yet?
You can't.
Oh, okay.
Well, depends. If you have any information about the circle, then we could figure it out. But right now, with the knowledge that you currently have sitting here, you can't.
Okay.
Now, once we start talking about circumference and once we start talking about area, what's really cool about circles is any measurement about the circle, I can then derive or calculate, figure out, whatever you want to say, any of the other measurements. So if somebody gave me the area of the circle, I could back all the way up to finding the radius, finding the diameter, finding the circumference, all of that. So circles are super cool, and once we understand how to work with them, they're actually pretty easy. Crap, I cleared that. So please make sure that you get that in your notes. I'll probably write it down again over and over again, so I'm not too scared that I cleared that. So AB, right here. What would you call length AB? Forget about what's on the notes. I'm just having a discussion with you guys. Does AB have a special name? Is it a radius? Is it a diameter?
Yeah.
So here's the one thing that we did not touch on yet. Back in diameter. What else should we have highlighted? It's not just from edge to edge. It's from edge to edge, and it must... Say it louder. Go through the center. So what's specific about diameter is it's edge to edge through the center of the circle. Do I see the center of the circle in this circle down here in the intro section?
Yes.
Is the center point showing to me?
Yes.
I don't see a point anywhere.
I do.
I see a line, BC across the circle. I see AB through the circle. I see AC through the circle. But do I see a center point? I cannot be certain that BC is a diameter unless they tell me. If they tell me BC is a diameter, I know it goes through the center. If I see a center point, I know it's a diameter. But if I'm not told that it's a diameter and I don't see a center point, I don't know what BC is, aside from it's a chord. Any line through the circle, and if I bump back to my first slide, this kind of had way too much information on it. Any line through the circle that is not a diameter is a chord. If you're in music, it is spelled the same as a musical chord. It is not the same, but it is spelled the same. So, down here, these lines right now, all I know about them is that they are chords because they go through the circle from edge to edge. I don't know if they go through the center, though. So, an art class developed this logo, and they want us to sort what are radii and what are diameters. Be careful, some of these segments are nothing. So, you can choose from these segments, or you can just look at the image over there. It depends on which, like how your brain works, whether you'd rather look at the picture and find the segments, or look at the segment names and then go locate them. But if I look at segment, I'm going to help you with one of them. BD. BD. Does that have a special name?
No, chord.
It's just a chord. Do I have a place for chords?
No.
Let's make one, just because we're better than just what's on the notes.
We're better. Better than them.
Crap. So I'll make it right over here, actually. Hey guys, so you should be able to sort every single segment. So take a moment to do it on your own, then compare with a partner. We've got more chords than just that, too. So Jeremiah, if I look at, let's just go through the list they have. PB, that segment. Mr. Home, by the way.
Yeah, I was looking at that, and what's a radii?
Radii is the plural of radius. So if you want right here, you are looking for radius, but the plural is radii.
Okay, so
Very good question.
That's a radii.
That's a radii because it goes from the center out to the edge. So PB belongs right there with radii. Whitney, what about AP?
Radii.
Yeah, AP, P is the center, A is out on the edge. So AP. Now, what's the difference between AP and PA? Nothing. They're the same thing. The only difference is how you wrote it. So, AP is the same thing as PA. Do not think that there's any difference. It's just how you write it. Now, with angles, remember naming angles, order does matter. We got to have that vertex in the center. Ozzy, what about AB?
AB goes to chord.
It is a chord. Monica, do you have a question?
Yep.
What's that?
Why do you put the line on top?
Oh, that is to tell us that it is a segment. You have to have that symbol so that you know that you're referencing a segment length. If it was a line that continued, we'd have arrows on both ends. If it was an angle, we would not have the symbol on top, and we'd have a symbol out front. So we got to have the symbol so that we know what we're talking about. And so that we know it's not just a word. Ab! It's a line. Or a segment, more so. Dom,
Yes, sir.
what about, sorry, we're on AC now.
AC. I said that it was a diameter.
It is. It goes through the center, goes from the edge to the other edge. Ellie is still in New York, I believe. Ashley, what about AD? AD. So from A to D. It is a chord. AD. PC. Monica, what about PC?
It's a radii.
It is a radii. Samantha, what about PD? Uh-huh. And that is everything. Any questions on any of this? Sweet. Let's flip to the back. So I want you to list out, and no, you do not have to list out both ordered ways of naming them. I want you to list out all of your radii, all of your diameter, and all of your chords, because again, we're better than just what the notes asked. So list out your radii. And actually, radii is shorter to write than radius. List out your diameters. I'm going to put diameters over here. And your chords.
Do you have to list them or just comment?
Like list them. So ignore the how many. We're doing different than what the notes just asked. The notes are the basic, what you need to learn. I want us pushing further than that. We need to go deeper. So, Katia, what are you choosing to look for first? Diameter, radii, or chords? Chords? What chords do you see then? BD. Yep, it goes from edge to edge, but not through the center. And AC or CA, either way that you say it does not matter. You do not have to be alphabetical. A lot of times people just put them in alphabetical order because it's kind of easier for us to say. Jaslyn, if we move on to radii or diameters, which do you want to do? Diameters? All right, what diameters do we have? AD and BC. Always make sure you have those commas to break apart your list. Andrew, you gonna help me out?
And the radii is OB, OA, OC.
Ooh. So you realize since O is my center point, all of these are going to have to start at O. So you really could just go OA, OB, OC, or yeah, OA, OB, OC, OD. Like literally just all the way down. Any questions? When I stand on the edge, I can lean on this, but if I miss the edge, like, that's what just happened if you just caught me falling. Sorry, gravity works. So I can move the Smart Ink settings. You guys don't even understand how much cooler all this technology has made teaching, as opposed to like when I was in middle school. So here's our formulas again to help your brain write them down again. And you're like, geez, Mr. Hudson, all this redundancy. But your diameter is 2 times your radius, or your radius is half the diameter. You can use capitals or lowercase if you want. Sometimes I've seen people prefer to use capital D and lowercase r. It's your preference until you reach a class where they really care about your notation. As long as you're listing in the formula, I know what you're talking about. Now, if you like use it somewhere else and I get really confused, you might want to just write out diameter or write out radius. So the distance from a car to the center of the Ferris wheel is 221.5 feet. That's huge. So let's notate this. So it tells me from the center of the wheel out to the car is 221.5 feet. If we know that, how can we figure out approximately how tall that distance is? So the height of the Ferris wheel, Sean?
You can do diameter equals radius times 2.
Yeah, my height is really diameter. So sorry, so Sean, you said do 2 times the radius, so you probably plugged in or did a multiplication somewhere. 221.5, and you got So,
440.
yeah, so double this, then double that. So we get 442 plus one more, we get 443. Make sure you label it feet. We're going to start marking questions wrong if you do not have labels. I told you guys, once we get to geometry, we run because you understand the algebra, the geometry makes sense. If you ever hear people talking, and this is like my own personal plug, if you hear people complaining about Common Core, tell them about like, hey, when I learn algebra and geometry at the same time, it's easy. Because now that we've gotten to geometry, you know what you're doing. Or at least you have a better setup. Even if this is slightly challenging for you, you have a good setup to learn all this. Now they give me ST is 4 1/3. So Noah, what would I do knowing this if I want to look for SO?
You do 4 1/3 times half.
Yeah, so I can do half of 4 1/3, which is going to be a lot easier if I don't use a mixed number. What could I use instead of a mixed number? Improper fraction. 4 times 3 gives me 12, plus one more gives me 13 thirds, which will really give me 13 sixths.
Why 6?
Because if I multiply straight through the top, straight through the bottom.
Oh, yeah.
So that 13 sixths, now I can convert it back. What are you doing with my compass? Because you're scaring me. If you're not using it, set it down. When I convert that back, I get 2 and a 6, which if you remember your decimal conversions, that one's really cool because the 1/6 fractions becomes 2.16, and then that 6 repeats. What would my label on that be? Okay. Feet. You gotta look for a label, guys. If you're writing down a number, you gotta check, does it have a label? I know I had that issue when I was a kid. But my 5s do not look like S's. My 5s are very, like, pointed. And Julian, if this orange tells me the expression 3x minus 1 represents the diameter of the orange, how can we figure out x? Well, what's the image really tell us? What does the image show me? Like straight up without me even having to think. Do we have a special name for this length that they gave me? That'd be the radius, right? They tell us what? Is the diameter. So if that 3x, so let's label, or let's set up a problem. I know the diameter is 3x minus 1. Can we figure out what the actual diameter is? What do we know? So, again, I will ask, can we figure out what the diameter is? How? Look back up your page like 2 steps and you should have formulas, what D equals and what R equals. So a D equals 2 times R. How does that help us here? There we go. So why do you keep saying, I don't know? When once you think about it, you do know. And that's 5 inches. Then, what can we do, Julian? Because you totally know what to do. So if this, chill. If that's your diameter, and this is your diameter, you know exactly what to do. So first, what you didn't say out loud, because Jeremiah's being goofy and laughing for some reason, we're doing math, it's not that funny. First, we substitute. But then I do exactly what Julian just said, and I add 1 to both sides. That gives me that 3x will be equal to 6. So once I get there, Julian, what do I do now? Divide by 3 on both sides. And I get that the x value here is 2. And because it's a variable value, I do not have a label on it right now. Any last questions from 11.1? Flip to 11.2. I don't know if it counts as rhyming when it's the exact same word. Kind of cheating. It's like rhyming orange with
No,
orange.
it's not the same word. It's a different word. T-O-T-W.
Ooh, love it. So, let's think for a second. Right? Weird. Let's think. If you compare these circles and you think about how much string it would take to go around it, which actually I did our map lesson activity. You all right, Julian? You seem real into that. I did our map activity with my coworkers, the other teachers, last week. And Mr. Smith, because he used to teach math, immediately grabbed that headphone cable down in the lost and found bin for when we had to measure the roads. Instead of measuring each section, he just laid out the headphone cable to follow that section.
That's genius.
Genius! It's a technique that most people didn't think about. But let's imagine laying that cable around these different circles. What statement could we make to relate distance around the circle and distance across the circle? If you were just trying to explain circles really basic to somebody.
Wait, you said, what was the question? What's the difference between distance around the circle and distance what?
Distance around the circle compared to distance across the circle. Like if my diameter gets bigger, let's say that. So from circle 1 to circle 2, does your diameter get bigger?
Yes.
So if I was going to make a statement, I could say, if the diameter increases, then, this is an if-then statement. If something happens, then something else has to happen.
The circumference increases.
Well, what is circumference? We haven't even talked about that. So then, distance around also increases. What does the prefix or the stem circum mean? Andrew? What does the ending of ENCE often talk about? Distances, right?
What is this?
Circumference. Circum is around. The ending of ence really kind of is an indicator towards distance or length. So, circumference is just distance around the circle. And a relationship that we can see is if my diameter increases, well, if my circle gets bigger, the distance around it also gets bigger. So I would, if I was you, make sure that you have this highlighted circled starred something that you will never ever be able to miss that. That circumference is the distance around. Now pi. Pi is this magical number that's not really all that special.
Wait, have you memorized
You can't, I mean, it's infinitely large, so you can't memorize it. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the ratio. What makes pi? Not your grandma. How do we get the number pi? Like, where does it even come from? This number pi is really easy to find. You can find it anywhere and everywhere.
In what's it called?
Pi is
Outside.
just
Is it 20?
a division. Chill. You're trying to look ahead in your notes, and you're getting when you're looking ahead in your notes, you're not like giving respect to the conversation. It is a ratio. It is a division. Forget about the numbers. What we're talking about is the relationship. Dom, do you know it?
Circumference divided by this, or diameter.
It is your circumference divided by your diameter. When you take the distance around the circle and divide it by the distance across, you will always get the value of pi, or approximately 3.14. So if you have a perfect circle, take like a soda can or something like that, and you measure the distance around it, and then you measure the distance across it, this will always work out. Always.
So perfect. Can't you find that in nature a lot of things?
Perfect circles are hard to find in nature. So approximations for pi. We know the 3.14. But there's also a famous fraction approximation. What you said is close, but I want to come back to this tomorrow or in a minute. I want to leave you wondering what and we're not done yet, but what is the fraction approximation? And our formulas here are kind of given to us over here. We have pi is equal to the circumference divided by diameter, or circumference is equal to pi times diameter, or we can replace diameter with 2 times r. I'd prefer, because they write it 2 pi r, you can also think of it as pi times replacing diameter with 2r. So instead of pi d, it's pi times 2r, because diameter and 2 times the radius are the same thing. They will be the same value.
How can you multiply a number that's never ended?
You don't use the whole number. You just chop it off somewhere. So I can chop it off at 2 decimal places and use 3.14. I can chop it off at 5 decimal places and use 3.14159. You know what I mean? I can keep.
But the farthest you go.
I've got posters that I'll put up here soon because they kept falling down, so I'm buying some new stuff. But they wrap all the way. Pi starts right there by that speaker, and it goes all the way around the corner. So, but we've also got sheets of pi that are out in the folder in the hallway, and that's like 250 digits. Nobody's ever made it through the whole. I don't spend my time trying to remember things. Memorization is not really that important of a skill. Like, application is important, but just memorizing, I don't really put that much time into it. So, we gotta match the information in the box on the right with the circle that it goes with. So, I actually think that we can just derive all of this. Go ahead and name this box. Write what they have. Circumference is 3 times pi. Now, off to the side here, we know that circumference is actually pi times what?
D.
Pi times diameter. If you can't remember it, check right above the formulas that we were just using. So if this is actually pi times diameter, then that means that this 3 is the diameter. So the first thing we figured out is my diameter is 3. And that would be meters. This M is for meters. That is not a variable. That is your label. It is a distance. It's got to have a label. And if my diameter is 3 meters, then can I figure out my radius?
Yeah.
How does the radius relate to the diameter? It's half. So what's half of 3?
1.5.
1.5 or 1.5. So then do the same thing for your circle on the right. If they tell you that your circumference is 4 times the pi, then Elena, what is that 4 actually?
The diameter.
That's the diameter. And however you decide to emphasize it, some people say diameter, some people say diameter. There's not really a right or wrong. Just decide how you want to say it and go with it. And then that also tells me, Mr. Smith, if my diameter's 4, then my radius
Is 8 or 2.
Yeah, be careful. That's where people make their mistake. Instead of halving, they double. So just make sure you pay attention and you think that through. Any questions so far? Let's finish this really quick, and then we will be done with the front and do a pickup tomorrow on the back. So the circumference of a circle with diameter 4, well, as soon as we know diameter, we can plug it into the formula. That circumference is just pi times the diameter. So that'll be pi times the 4, which pi is approximately 3.14. So when we do 3.14 times the diameter of 4, we get that its circumference is approximately, so we use the squiggly equals because we're rounding. We're close, we're not exact. 12.56, and we will label that inches. We will pick up on the back tomorrow. Thank you guys very much. So your homework should just be an 11-1-2 combined assignment. Look for that to be posted at some point during second block. Thank you guys very much. Have a wonderful day.